So good morning, everybody. So we can begin with opening prayers in the prayer book, starting with page 1. We'll read once in English and once in Tibetan. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Page 3. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teaching, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Namge Dada Nyambe Samje Damje Hechoje De Samje Deje Yegwa Tam Jeje Kusondo Ayonden Tele Tam Jeje Ngowo Gyurba Chuje Bongbo Dondo
je je sa je june ba be gen de dam je je ma dai den jen sa wa dan gyu ba je re ba le lama dam ba nam la gyab su je wo ye dan gyu gor ge la so nam la gyab su je wo san je chum den de nam la gyab su je wo dam be chu nam la gyab su je wo ba be yen de nam la gyab su je wo ba wo gan ro chu gyong sung me so ye she ge chen dang gen ba nam la gyab su je wo. And then on page 4. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Chang Chö Nying Bo Che Je Bo San Je Nam La Jiao Zhen Je Chö Dan Chang Chö San Ba Ye Zo Lan De Yen Jiao Zhen Je Je Da Ngo Je De Ye Je Chang Chö To Ne Je Ba Dang Chang Chö Sen Be La Ba La De Da Ren Xin Ne Ba Dar De Xin Do La Ben Don De Chang Chö Sen Ne Je Je Xin Te Xin Do Ne La Ba La Ren Ba Xin De La Ba Page 5. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sanje Chodan Soje Chonam La Chanjo Barde Dagne Gyabse Che Dage Chanso Gebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Page 6.
refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Maras, together with their hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities without exception exactly as they are, transcendent conqueror, together with your disciples, please come here to this place.
Benza Samanza, Benza Samanza, Benza Samanza, Male Samje, Gunje, Bonjure, Ando de Bonje, Meze, Jomze, Mona, Male, Jijen, Jenjure, Jomde, Koroje, Nende, Yesu, Argan, Baden, Dube, Aloy, Gende, Nevede, Shabda, Paradiso,
Page 7. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate.
Sanje Shengla Mekde Buwaye Endoge Namdai Shengde Jubai Joy Jangze Wadan Jujen Shabadang Jise Yedran Gushin Zowaye Gewa Jungze Zaba, Tamje, Zobe, Chanjo, Jembo.
And then turn to page 11. Namo. To the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence, I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the 3 realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling jewel, crown ornament, the inconceivable, inexpressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the 5 wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love, and precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Dharmakaya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind, transcending conqueror, the one thus gone, foe destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men, I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Shakya king. At the time of your birth, leader of 2-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth you proclaimed, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, even then I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain, the one whose renown is evident throughout the 3 worlds, protector of supreme attainment. To you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you, the one with a complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one such as you, among the three levels of existence, is most exquisite. Unparalleled, omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace, to that one, the one who dwelled at Shravasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone, the pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, the altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the three higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha, I also prostrate. And then you can flip back to page 9. Is it 9?
Namo Nase Namda Ke Lama La Nase Sheshen Sen Choba Bu Angam Soy Yondra Dozorwa De Korwa Tondra Se Chenje Lo Jeje Norva Tsoke Je Masa Jume Yarve To Anjimbe Yeje Ngadande Zeve Danye Gajijen Antowa Jumze Rambo Che Dasenye Jemane Sovande Enchonye Jemande Jenje Lo Samdone Jeme Namdande Ngalonde Chuka Bobai Jenje Lo Chon Dende Dejen Yegwa Adajomba Yanda Bara Tobe Sanje Regwa Dan Xiaose Demba Dewara Yegwa Anjiden Chenba Jiven Dewa Kaloi Jorwa Nalana Meba Lada Namje Ombai Nyame Shai Je Jarboy Shaje Du Atema Meba La Ngowa Rade Dode Gwe Chanda Lo Kanze Kanye Towo Jodanze Ande La Gomba Duwane Nane Jiden Denan Choje Song Ande Den Geba Jela Chanza Lo Nanda Gonga Chodo Suzangwa Ayeshe Janzo Serge Lumbo Da Daban Jeden Sona Langyewa Gombo Chonye Jela Chanza Lo Senjo Demba Jimen Daveje Salando Dawa Jela Chanza Lo Dude Jude Sapa Sonanze Nyame Jen Jen Jela Chanza Lo Menjoin Duwa Kalo Junze Jen Kunjoro Jingwa Junze Dijen Ye Amboy Jadai Nye Jela Ke Nyo Shoba Dalai Chanza Lo Gombo Tuje Jedem Ba 见见别东巴波，所那永天将作心，地心也来将财路。他别多财只为觉，给为年所来多心。同代就外，谢就出来将财路。托内托为老杨东，老巴达来拉的个，心给当白永天界，跟着老杨将财路。
And then on page 15. I prostrate to the youthful Manjushri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times, to all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration prayer for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dharmadhatu completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas with the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense. I make offerings to the victorious ones with the finest cloths, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways. I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the Bodhisattvas, the Pratyekya Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who passing through the stages of awakening, attain Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. Tini de Chugi Korlo? Or bouquet? Chugi Korlo. Oh, bouquet. So then in Tibetan, on page 14.
Le dang a ye dang we chang je wo sang bo ju bie mo na do da ge jar wa tam je ye ja mo san de shen ge du nye le ra du ba ye jar wa gun la ra de chang za lo du je ding na du je nam san je se je una shuk ba da de da chu je yen nam ma le ba tham je ja wa da ge kang wa ra mo de da ngong ba me se kyam so nam yang ge yang la kyam so da gen ge ja wa gen ge yon den rab jo jing de wa ra ye ba tam je da ge to me do dam ba jing wa dam ba dang zin ye nam dan ju ba du jo dang ma me jo dang ju ba dam ba ye ja wa da da la ne ju ba je na za dam ba nam da je jo dang Chim bur me re ra nyam ba dang ko ba che ba ba be chu gen je gya wa de da la ne chu ba je na chu ba gam na me ja che wa de da ja wa tam che la yang mo sang bo ju la de be do da ge ja wa gun la chang zhen ju ba ge do cha xia dang de mo wang ge ne le dang a dang de xin ye ye yang de ba da ge ji ba jin je ba da da dang je da ge so so shak chu ki chu gya wa gun da san je de se rang ja nong dang lo dang me lo dang do wa gun je so na gang la yang de da gun je je se da ye rang yang na chu je je da do ma da chang je ren ba san je ma cha ni ngong bo de da da je tam je la ko lo la na me ba ko wa ko nyang nyang da do gang je da da la ro wa gun la bin jin de we je ge wa jin ge dun ye shu ba ya da ge de mo ra ja so wa je cha sa wa da ju jin sha ba da je se ye rang gu jin so wa ye ge wa jung ze da ge che sa ba tam je zo be chang ju chim bo. Page 16. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings. Sem je nam je samba dang lo ye je da war je jong de mo de gua ye cho je gor lo gor du so. Dang ge do je jang je re so do yin je me do du je bong jong bo se je lung bo da wo je ve xia je je be xiao la ge zhang ze de me wo zhe to je jing gu le de mo de je jing wo je do wa tam je se bo gun chen chue je je 민디공 렌젠 그전세 우미 주제행제 포동도 두성제 긍정오니 동성조건 오송동제비 더벨람의 경로 그전세 간다조절동gen제대나 대개롱문화 저가공 소다된들동비 주제절배고 스물도와 덤진대리 Namo Ariala Yege Don Le Don Le Jege Dum Don Don Me Ge Nam Ne Do Genje De Ge Je Zong Bo Dam Jege De Da Ge Jo Dan Do. Good morning. Today, đang ở tụi train Dami ma Vajrayana da Narama Atike Nangyoris.
So today, the empowerment that we'll be receiving is known as Dagmima in Tibetan or Nairatmya in Sanskrit.
That in the Jatanda Mamboji Wayang Tobiorela. Tiga nangji kita ji karse gore sangak chu tela tene familiar tene teyang ji nyamle chi himba thang tiga nangji kita ji ko sangak chu tela nyamnyong wa tene ji chadi yores.
And so you're all seasoned practitioners, you're familiar with the practices of secret mantra, you have already engaged in a lot of practice and know how to practice.
Oda timi indu ta jirang tandang ga da sanga ke chu nane ta bena ga da karse ko ninjo lani ta tin lam de chaju joju ninjo lana mi bi ju tie ke nane ta ji chodo churwa ti maju kitsemo oda tiniji cha de yore tin de tine da nela ko ji za chimbuin deli za chese ji da yang deli karse ko ta ji saban ro ji cho je gi zamo ta na ta teli sabs me wa ji cha de yore is.
And so as that's the case, then you all already know that in general we have the 4 classes of Tantra. So there's the Kriya Tantra, Charya Tantra, Yoga Tara, and Anuttara Yoga Tantra, or Unsurpassed Yoga Tantra. And so this empowerment belongs to that 4th category, which is kind of the most profound or the highest category. And within that, it belongs to the Mother Tantra. And so there is nothing that is more profound. You know, there's no category or practice that is more profound or higher than this. It's a really, you know, kind of especially precious and profound.
Yine yang ta angatso yang tela guyorda tosa chena 양사 지에스. 타고도. 하고도.
하고근데.
오다 텐다고 양데 항상야기 자침부 사부리디 이나양 강자기 냠내 징에 그고 내지 텐디지 메비나 테네야 냥가 요레스.
However, so that being said, it is often also said that that like the higher the dharma, the greater the danger. Kind of like the higher the height, the further the fall is kind of the way that it's said. So meaning that, you know, the more precious the dharma, or the more profound or kind of like the more advanced, if the practitioner isn't ready for it or doesn't approach it in the right way, then it can actually be dangerous. There can be problems.
티인도 다 김센 틀렸대니 가서다 가서 지 상하게 추디 자 첨보리 딘디기 냠낸 칭겐케 강사 텔라 드네 당원이 지 갈세고래 에 담배기 추라 드네 지 냠뇽요와 텔레양 쪼와요와 드가나 이 테자 마지베케 지 갈세고다 디스지 레다 냠뇽로와 지 똑바세나리 오 냠뇽 딘디지
And so, with these profound secret mantra Vajrayana dharmas or practices, the practitioner, the individual, needs to have some experience. So there has to be like a solid foundation of understanding and experience, and also like I think he means like a good attitude in their approach, like some joy, like a joy or delight in the practice. But there has to be some experience, some level of understanding or realization.
다 딜레카스나 즉 냠뇽 다 담배 기출라 금딘 중야 확차 샤야디 다 칼세나 아직 창접 선바 당 프랙티셔너 드소케 지 칼세고 코란키 냠뇽라 떼내려와 즉 대가나기 semchen 현바라 즉 참바당 쩌와 첨부 그거네 근데 다직 레라오 토네 냠내치야 요래 디인도 변나직 추주풍고 제트케 동라오이나 자동 냠내치 토야 가보러와 이나양 즉 드다 탐지 닝보초 뉘치네 다 냠내치야 대 당가서디 대요래 즉 응원도 치 엔투모치 응원도 투미나 응원도 라 소바지 요래 오다디 빼면서 개천부리 근데 냠내 집이나 근데 추 주들다 샘디인들 내도 거다 내가 열어와 대마도 베게 직접
So the experience develops based on imprints. So that means, so the practitioner, like who practices according to the path of bodhisattvas or through developing bodhicitta, in dependence upon their experience with the practice, they have a real facility for turning the mind immediately to the proper kind of foundation or motivation, which is love and loving kindness and compassion for sentient beings, or love and affection for sentient beings. And so whatever, if that imprint is very strong, then whatever practice that we do becomes easy, like we can accomplish the practice easily. And so even though there are so many different Dharma practices, we have the 84,000 categories of Dharma. And so to really be able to practice all of them would be difficult. But the essence, really sort of extracting the essence and practicing according to the progressive stages. So that means taking care to do the preliminaries. So doing the common outer preliminaries, the uncommon inner preliminaries, and then as we progress step by step like this, then it becomes really stable.
근데 갈세나 다 개체효대 지금 어떤 담배추 로버트 치와라 내가 체효대 가리요를라위나 다 당보지 맨나 물륜 따침보 임바다 대가 나 이렇게 물륜데 갈세나 지고 딱배그랑 이마임바 아코 니마레레 힌드 추소kar마레레 힌드 존로야 임바테네 지금 메타바다 되네 most important part 갈세나 지 레준데 세야지 다티 확자데 레준데 세야지 다 하코고로 오다 티인도 진리게 지빼 샘게 땡란 자네 와 드니제 고고 다 드니제 집이 토네 드네 배나차 향다 가서 지 배자 전부리 점도 로 공조송 땡고 공조송 점도 대가 나기 기지 그런 그 줄에 대답 차야 되네 돌상금데 대가 나기 기지 가서 다 산지 공방 톱으로 지워라 되네 다 소남지 고요 로 소남 그 잡텐지 미비나야 직배 휴직배 두루잡 냠내 치비나야 그 소남 그 잡텐미나 용거 말해 그 정도가 차제 진보 그 소사 드바 장비 라지 송도티네 소사
Wait, so sonam japtin mena tene kare.
소나 그 잡텐미나 되네 산지 공방 토그 말해 티인도 대중도 소사 바탕 드바 장비 라지 틀라 그 산지 그래 손이 계세 저랑 직 드바양 마장와체 되네 직
Tene chaja chimbola kare sing. Chaja chimbola.
다 데려와 내 속사 드바 마장나 타도 좀 고마 또그 말이스 가르송 요래 슬라비나 자자 전부 또야티 속사 드바 장비라디스 소소남 싸나 되네 자자 전부 고마 또 그러와 들리지 그 소남게 미비나 되네 제가 또 장본다고 통본다고 지금 남상 또 도야지 연구요 말이스
And so the most important thing, when we practice Dharma, again, is to have these really strongly established foundational understandings or mind states. So that means, first of all, like really recognizing how precious our opportunities are as human beings, having a precious human birth. And even though we have a precious human birth, then secondly, really understanding the fleeting nature of this opportunity, that even though we are alive now, we have the support of a human body, that, there's no kind of security in this because everything is constantly changing. There is the truth of the inevitability of death and impermanence, and we see that every moment there is the display of transformation or transition and change. Every day things are changing, so we have to really understand the truth of impermanence. And then also very important, or most important, is deeply believing in and knowing the truth of karma, cause, and effect. Then when that's really deep, we really understand these truths, and then we also have a very solid reliance on the three jewels, that our mind of faith and refuge in the three jewels is really strong. Then that is also deepened through the preliminary practice of refuge. And then we also dini di dungala sungyo marwa di dungala. Okay. And so then we also we have to purify obscurations, which is typically done with the practice of Vajrasapa. So visualizing Vajrasapa at our crown, and doing the recitations. Then we purify our mind stream through the practice of Vajrasapa. And so then we also have to have a vast accumulation of merit. So merit is the support for awakening. If we don't have the support of merit, there's no way to attain Buddhahood. If we don't have sufficient merit, there's no way to realize Mahamudra. So the process of the path, like our Dharma practice, in effect, is a process of purifying the obscurations and gathering the accumulations. And this is what leads to awakening. If we don't have this, then there's no way to realize Mahamudra. If we think, we're just going to immediately understand or realize the innate nature, that's impossible. We have to go through this process of gathering the accumulations and purifying obscurations.
동된 라미 친라 송도테네 다 대바지 고요래 텐디 가서 다 ngondo kitene ta hibade na ngondo de la min enjoying body oda ti massive ke chembore is.
And so part of that gathering of accumulations is also, or the accumulation of merit is mainly focused upon in the practice of mandala. And then also, together with gathering the accumulation, so the path to awakening consists of, there are these two aspects, the gathering of the accumulations and also relying on the blessings of a qualified spiritual teacher. And so that's then the fourth of the preliminary practices, which is the practice of Guru Yoga.
당가도 참자 삼고도와 가르는 오다 대다 항상야 가르세고다 제 100,000 세야 대배 욕다 차고 휴지 레다 대 용사마리 다 텔이양 고디 스캡노 지지지 힘바직란 로나 라오지 삼고요와 이나테 에 틴디 요 마레스.
And sometimes we become discouraged because these preliminary practices are really in depth. It requires a lot of dedication. We have to do like 100,000 accumulations for each section. So sometimes that feels really like too much, problematic, like there's no way we'll ever finish. And so there can be a thought like, maybe I'll just skip this or I'll go on to the other, the next stage. But it doesn't work like that.
But inaya tati nyamne chigures. Inaya ti 100,000 don't worry rawa.
But so you have to do all the stages of the practice, but you don't really have to worry so much about the accumulations. Like you don't have to get to 100,000.
Penna cha hyawina 100,000 cha na yang otanga 100,000 cha yin ta nga chi gong mo do sambatini yo mares.
In fact, sometimes if we think like, oh, I have to get to 100,000, and then we get to 100,000, then we're like, okay, I'm done with that, then it's not like that either.
Like ta penna ngarando samotang bina chi ngondo do peche mena ta chi thingma somdo chi yosarawa chi yosari.
So he says in his own case, he's actually done Ngondro 3 different times.
Yinaya ta tiniya tamata losong choson divi kabla karchi yo lavina ta chik tsin tombondo pena demcho pangmo naru chudu tine tomola sobata tini nyamle chiyores.
And so, ultimately when he did it then in the 3-year retreat, it was then followed by, kind of these higher practices, Chakra Samvara, Vajravarahi, the 6 yogas of Naropa, including Tummo and so forth.
Yinaya ta tanda samo taung bi kabla ta nga highest lep sa yor ta ta yo do da goya mendo sama doji yo mares. Ta ngara nyamle china tanda yang wone china 다 가르치는 편도 최효 중고르잖아. 원로 대당 로도 넘바 해. 다티 틀리 개체에 나오지 출구 개체효도 차디요레스. 하는 냠년도 오이나 드니지 치디에 거다 가다가 야가야 랩서 스탠드 사성선바 요도 가야 공부하는데 되네 말이스. 다 개체효디 지 섬마제지 파도 치고야 돼. 가르세나 다 원로 드리스.
But it really became apparent to him that, even though he had gotten to the highest practices, it wasn't like, oh, this is the real stuff and we don't really need everything that comes before. Actually, it became more apparent that the most important, the most beneficial are these preliminary practices, the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, refuge. And so it isn't like you get to the higher practices and then those are you no longer need to practice those. In fact, actually, it's like, what we really need to continue to cultivate and continue to come back to from now until we awaken, from now until Buddhahood, is always going to be these preliminaries.
어다 디인두티네 직다 총나 양고 가 step by step 총나 되게 근데 maybe 나 양다 time to time 로 상자 텐조 그 텐조 준비로 자chen 보인 봐. 단 삼자들이 레준들을 섬노당 로 또 치효도 레준들라 삼모 땅고래 레준이 하 고비나 되네 땅가 저 갈세나 그 뭐니 단다 삼모 땅비나 다 레준데 그 삼노 레준들 understanding로 karma cause effect 강자지 인비나 다티 메티 갈세나 most와 honest 차기요레스 텔라 갈세나고 정보 대양 갈세나 간이차 걸세나 unconditional 버저 유일 또 먹어봐 정보 지야라 무게 통나래 뭐지게 통게 매나래 뭐지게 전화 약보도 랍나래 뭐지게 전화 누보도 랍나래 간단히 unconditional 그 밑에 정보 샴페인요와 든디지 강 갈세거다 basically로 베나타 메테베다 kind of pure person도 그랬더니 자기 요리스 갈세나 레전드 하고 요러와 레전드 하고는 랑라서 뭐 땅데 거래 마토 비키 nothing rely on external thing 요머와
So we can do this, these progressive stages step by step, but we can also reflect upon them just, from time to time. So like sometimes we spend time really reflecting on the preciousness of this human life with leisures and endowments. Sometimes we reflect upon or think about karma cause and effect. And karma cause and effect is so important. So if there's a really understanding of karma cause and effect, like anybody who really understands this, the individual who really deeply gets karma cause and effect, they're very honest. They are like they become the most honest person. They're honest, and their honesty is unconditional. And it's not based on, it doesn't need anybody else's approval. It like whether somebody sees their honesty or doesn't see it, if somebody says they're good, if somebody says they're bad, it has no bearing on the purity of their conduct. Their conduct is very pure. They have like deep, motivation of wanting to benefit others. And so that individual becomes a truly like the most pure person. Why? Because they really get karma cause and effect. They completely know the truth of it. And so there's nothing, they know it from their own side, so they know the results of the purity of their conduct, and there's nothing that's needed externally, to validate that.
어다 딘드 어떤 공슈가 나기래다 가서 time to time 이나직다 에 니마직라테네 지 로도 넘버 히네 지야 운도다 예담 텐데 지투기 미비나 와 테네 간데스도 배나 삼삼 가서 지 휴지 갈세나지 추체야게 삼삼티 스토어 메베갑라 와 샤테네 섬노직당 오 당아 디 텐조지 물룬디 자첨보레 샤스탄데가 배나 지 갈세고다 not to lose the chance 로 어디인데 티네지 삼야다 대가 나기게 삼상 가서 지 레론도 티니 총백갑라요 메타와 공바당 대가 나기게 지 삼상 가서 샘라 치기 유일에 되네요 강이 티네 요러와 티니 티백갑라 티네 지 레준데 공야다 티네 대가 나기게 뒤준도 티네 개체교다 관조 좀 된거 보러와 다 관조 좀당 드네 지 상제라 된거고 다디 화자지 향나 다 몽바라 지 끝나차 향이나 아주지 신도부요나 신도에 까울라 섬놈도지 땅미나 드네 가서 다 단다 사다나도지 로 어떤데 유명하거나 요말와 가서 루포양 어떤데 매기 양 통거 말에 수고양 근주야 요 말에 암조케 양 고구 말에 코카세는 가서 돼요 바도 나오네 칠로 게 가서는 디솔루션 차사로와 중화시 템도고요래 현 중화시 템 소비가라 되는 펑션이 요 말에 로가 가서 직사다 이나 사다나 로야도 졸라 가서 practice 라고 practice 리 오늘 리얼 마와 다 리얼 카레 서모당비나다 탱고고 주 희외기 못해가라 로와 꼭 마치비 못해 주 세겐직 상지직 템이나 야나 세겐직 권조종 템이나 덱 차와야 다디 다 저런 상지에와래 로와 포와람나 테리 상지람나 테리 대 차상 덱그래 텐데인도 지 두준도 지 권조종라 태야 뭐다 라소빅트네 문도 두냐나 지아레스
And so from time to time, we can apply these contemplations or these ngondo practices according to, where we're at any particular time. So for instance, if like one day, we, we sometimes, for instance, we feel, or didn't gongta la nima chek la lodo nambaji yang de ting mambo drinya yore dampo sungdu gare nima chek la
야,
gare.
답변은 니마지 도 있는 것도 다 참참듯이 소인이요로 소인.
Yeah. How they
남이
have
뭐 보요나. 되네 섬모 방국으로 와
Yeah.
갈지는 남이 지요래. 되네 된절물로 섬모 땅비나.
Okay. So like if, for instance, we're feeling particularly down or uninspired, and we feel discouraged, we're not really taking delight or joy in our practice or in the Dharma, then the most effective thing to do then is to reflect on, within the four thoughts, to reflect on precious human birth, and to really remind yourself of the preciousness of the opportunity, and that you kind of encourage yourself in such a way so that you feel that you're not going to let yourself lose this chance, lose this opportunity, to make use of this preciousness. So to inspire yourself by reminding yourself, how rare and precious this opportunity is. And then if sometimes you're just feeling a little bored or lazy, apathetic, then a very useful reflection is impermanence, to think about the truth of impermanence. And then if, for instance, we're sometimes besought with hardships, or we have particularly particular difficulties or hardships that we're experiencing or confronting in our lives, then it's really useful to contemplate karma, cause, and effect. And then all the time, at all times, we want to nurture and develop the tendency or the reliance upon, the three jewels and the Buddha. So always bringing to mind our refuge, always bringing to mind the three jewels, always bringing to mind the Buddha, because this puts a strong imprint in our mind stream that will be of great benefit to us in the future, when we die. Because we do all these practices that are kind of involved, like we read the sadhanas and so forth. But when we die, we're not going to be able to read our sadhanas. Our eyes won't be functioning. We won't be able to hear things with our ears. We won't be able to move our body or maybe sit up straight. And this is because, when there's the dissolution of the elements of the body stops functioning. So then how would we, be able to expect to approach our practice in the same way by, say, reading a sadhana or something? But that's why we call it practice, because that's what we're doing. We're practicing. So what are we practicing for, right? If we're creating a strong karmic imprint in the mind stream so that then we'll be able to remember, at the moment of death, if just in 1 second, for 1 second we remember the Buddha, if for 1 second we remember the three jewels, that can be enough for us to awaken in that very moment, or to, attain Buddhahood. We accomplish POA, just through that, putting our mind there. And so it's really important to develop that tendency toward reliance through remembering again. This is a very important aspect of our preliminary practice or mundro.
That in the Tangat Conshu and Naita, Jamdo Inari, and Guru Yoga Inari, Tinditine, Lama the Tang Kitchen Body, Conchosum Tang Kitchen Body, Tinditine, that it Tindindo Tambina, Cardisana, Tea Kabla, Shivene Kabla, Tene, Tindi Jaketa, the Tambina, Tene, one, Sanjik, he was Jenny, Rawa. Tea kabla sanji the hingus and jing be kabla, tenejik tangi ki karsagorjik, koluki natanda wadan, Tigana yiki semke number topa, jig redo wadanga nataji, tayak rewatan, Yana Shindoyari Zambiki, jig dungetan, tenitini, kayomar, the jalin dates our is. Tenengatota, ko tinginzi, tenepe, sanji ke totan tene, yerme wajing, dendo yosarawa.
And so very similar is the practice of guru yoga, and developing this strong imprint through recollecting the Lama, which is really not different from recollecting the three jewels. So then when we die, if we remember our Lama, if we remember the three jewels, then it's like we like seeing the Buddha face to face. And then at that time, then there's no, you completely overcome hope and fear. So there's not, the hope and fear or, concepts associated with hope and fear, such as, hope that you'll somehow avoid death and overcome your illness, or fear about dying. So that is no longer there. And you merge, indivisibly with the enlightened mind or the heart of the Buddha.
Pendo cha chawina, the tiny power tombo, power tombe galata, to join the dowina yanko, tako physical body or what, the man sayado or down, so jagdo sayado that, and lagu yasaro, cutting wheelwa.
Su?
Marapawa lago.
Oh, Chirang power.
In a young that he kota, Nimaji, ta koranki, how cool yasaro, this Nayori, Tazamji so to the Yosamari in a young man can't go love the or that man can't go where I am, man can't go mass. That man, the Sagi made that man, Sagi man, Sinatanga, to lot at this cheek, Sarwachi, Conrochis, combat to Rochis, Labudos, Tinichi, Tamadeta, David Gablataneta, Nala Carson, and La make Sundeb Jigori. La maison d'Ebtata, Coransonia, la Machimbaji Tanchitine, la maison d'Ebtamaji, Lorochi, Sundua. Tell law Begablata, Tamatella, Tene, Tama, Sandrogala, Tene, ta Sanji Tan, Tene, Lama Tan, Ransemte, 2 years mean they were change low, say I get Sigi. You also was a
Ransem got it 2 year me?
2 years mean they were change lows. To get in the watching laws. What Tindi Kablatine? Tindi Jalatine, Koranka, Chajano Jin, making Chimati short songs that Tabaji and Pay. That's on the Himos and Jio Sarawa. Then you did it, Kokompas also Labua.
So when Drupal Rinpoche's father died, when he passed away, for like leading up to his death, or when it became, he was very sick. There were, a lot of physical signs of his sickness, and pain, like physical pain. But he, and he got worse. He got progressively worse. And then the people who were with him asked him if he wanted to go to the hospital. And he said no, that he didn't want to go to the hospital, or if he wanted to take medicine. And he said no, he didn't want to take medicine. So he said, what he wanted to do is he wanted to change his clothes, clean up a bit. So he asked, the people to wash him, like wipe him down, wash his feet. He changed his clothes. And then he invited, asked for a lama another lama to be sent to read to him or with him, kind of, the a supplication to the guru. And so this lama was summoned, and he came and he was sitting there, reading this supplication over and over. And then the last time that it was read, over and over, Muddy. Oh, okay. So not over and over, but just like as he was reading it. But then at the end, where it says, may please bless me that the Buddha, the Lama, and my own mind may individually merge as one. And at that moment where those words were read, his father folded his hands in the gesture of prayer, and there were tears that streamed down his face, and it was in that moment that he died.
다티인데 당기 컨퓨어 나이다 나초 그 주라 화자지 하고로 와 화자지 패밀리지 요나 되네 거 텐다고 지퍼지자 용거래스.
And so it really comes down to, being able to like depart in such an auspicious way, really comes down to the strength of the karmic imprints that we create in our mind stream now. Really becoming familiar, through our practice, is what leads to this or makes this possible.
다 백초다 가서다 와제리아나로 particular 나라마 레다 대솔라 다 조상 그추세야 될라양 다 신통보인 바탕 대가나 얘기다 만다와지 용구요래 라와 베나차샤나 직제 차로 되네 가서다 갈세고래 창세 군도 조참말라 직 베나차샤나 지ren 생도보다 돌만도 마인바
So back to secret mantra, Vajrayana, and in particular, Nairatmya. So in secret mantra, things are a little different. Like the words are kind of more, what is the word? Kind of cryptic, like higher words and different. And the appearance of the deities are different. They're holding different implements and have different ornaments and different colors, and so they're very very differently in their form from, say, Chenrezig or Tara.
다티인도 가르세나 단다디 소 가르동 거요래 직 라비나 나츠 인디비주얼 키 줄레 요베케 다네 다 뇽바 보다 디기지 카티잖냐 속이 고고요래스
간델라
이번에 뇽바지 요러와 보다 텔레코 뇽바 메바송에 뇽바 온들 파이트 치 누비키 누파지 폼지 고고요래스.
And so why is this? Like, what are these differences all about? These kind of like wrathful expressions. It's really all about us as the individual and our practice. So in our mind stream, we have the afflicted mind states. And so in order to overcome those afflicted mind states, we need like real power or energy to be able to fight them. And so that's what these expressions are really about.
So I have a question. So if you have the anger has the form, what do you think what it look like?
If you were to give anger a form, what would it look like?
I just see red. I just see red.
Red. Okay, yeah, red. That's right. So this is if you anger a form with this you see this actually this I don't know comes from the probably Dharma, like scary movies, right? Or like how ugly, how scary. Like. So exactly, if they have the form, they make the anger, Also, we said this is Terawa, Pudu Yarbos, but that Kerangawina, Terawa, Teres. Modu symbols. And Docha Mokina, Mot symbol of your symbol city in a Jig Musha Sandonia, Tantondonia, Carl, Meglan Chawa, the Sol and Chawa Yoba, Patata, or Lakja Yoba, J Yoba, that Tandiji. Formed the love your thing, Yoris.
So they say, for instance, like the Tibetan version of this is anger given a form, like for the male expression of it, they're like the kinglies or gyalpo demons, the king of demons. And for the female expression is simple. What is simple, Eric, in Sanskrit? Simple? Rakshasas. So they have the fierce eyes and scary items in their hands, like knives and so forth. And so these actually, in these beings, these entities actually exist, but they're like the expression or the representation too of affliction, that's what they are. They're the manifestation of affliction.
Ti ta nga so tela tanda karsena nyong momba tela khati chernyenjik ta tanda yedam khla chadi yores. Bana nga so ta demchong ro so no chigware demchong la karsena demchong ta khon khando hi yorwa. Bana phamon ro ina ya phamo yore phamo khon khando hi yore. Ta tele karsena ti ta konsola thakbo yoba te yoba hok na yoba kabala yoba kabana la pe thalo yawa. 다 tinriji yores. Ti indu, ti kyoko kapti jarsi ki yutila, tani hedang rawo yuna, hedang derwa, ben den rawo re, tani, be hedang sawo, docha tega nagi, chagdo tega nagi, densam tega nagi, wada tinriji is.
And so we have also, the deities. This is what the deities represent, is really overcoming these afflictions. So, for instance, like Chakrasavara or Varahi, and they have, together with the 4 deities, each which kind of overcome or represent the subjugation or transformation of a particular affliction. And they all appear, in wrathful form, with skull cup and curved knife, skull cups filled with blood. And so in that way, all of the afflictions, anger, desire, jealousy, pride, competitiveness, and so forth, these all are the overcoming these afflictions is what the external form of these deities, all these different attributes, represent different aspects of overcoming these afflicted mind states.
제가 나 얘기했다. 저 사트서 냠내 집에 가블다. 가르송 거스나 되네. 다 시고그레 바나. 되네. 다 다르고그레.
세고그레.
세고그레 다르고그레스. lamgu yorwa tene raya protection yores himba so ina ta khari ina pena chongja to ke top gore lamgu yorwa ode tobya ta khar lag gore sena khangsa ji top gore khangsa ji la lamgu yoma ta khar top gore la na rang ki yulu yobe ta hedang pe the so pe ugly ro hedang hangsa scary ugly kona pe ta hangsa ya be hedang chau 다 텔레마 쓰고 그래. 텔레마 또 보고 그러와. 다 대가 나기 거 차도 지과요래. 다 차도도 속로요나. 다 뱀메시비 그 두보. 베티게 동아 땡게 갈레 땡게 배. 현아 차고. 어다 텔레지고 그래. 다 텔레 또 보고 그러와. 어다 딘디 인디 강한다냐. 용문 바티. 나텔라. 네. 다 이행아 세너리 다 된다. 사도소. 배다 나라만도 있나요? 다롱텔레 망도와 갈사나지 갈사 한모 갈사 주로 여러베 중앙 여러와 오다 텐디 마모도와 다 텐다오지 nga 손다오 이나지 파조래 마 효침부 자구나 다 텐나지 nga 좀 내파 자고 거와 되네 가서 송자고 그래 낙자고 그래 다 텐디지는 다 세야 또비야 그런 제국으로 와. 다 텐디 텔레카나 대하고 그래서.
And so, when we practice these deities, like there's also language, like to like slay and expel and so forth. And so these, and then there's the language, of protection. All of this protection sphere, protecting, with weapons that are cutting up the obstructors and so forth. So what is it, with all this language of like weapons and kind of these violent images and words, it's not like, like when we say, they're chopping up the obstructors, it's not chopping up individuals, it's chopping up, the afflictions in our own mind stream, like the very scary demons, the ugly demons, in our own being, such as anger, the ugly demons of jealousy, and so on. And so it is, and we have like a entire retinue of these wrathful wrathful deities, right? So like in the case of Nairatmya, there's Nairatmya and then her 15 goddesses or dakinis, because it's like when you're going to war with your afflictions, and you need an army, and you need to be equipped, and you need weapons, and you need the different tools and so forth. You need all the power possible to overcome the very strong force of an imprint of delusion, together with all of the defilements that we have habituated to since beginningless time in samsara.
That that Nordudina, most important part carriers and Sanga Yamlanchi Dela. That Tindijeke, Satel and Yamlanchi, Satel drop, Rava, Dine, Lark and Nuba. Tiki, Karsena, Da, Nyomba Chana, so Chiwaji Kanatama. Kodano, Dusiki, Yute, Hakona, then got a Sanga Chuta, Yamle, Chishingi Yorista, Sanga Chutini, then Zachamborwa, but the Nyomba Koran Tandana.
So Dordupa, the Hla, Yamland, the young Charson.
Then Dor do the Hubina, Sanga Chunyamnechia Giorwa, or Sanga Chunyamnechia de Karisena. Notuta Duya the Karandu Yore. They are the Karis Eggiore. Take us a rank Nyumba. Duva Nyumba Siva. I thought it is the gold cheese to what you tell somebody. Tanga to Yedamla Druguyores, Tambotra Lodi Hubina, Yedamla Druguyore, Yedamla Drugu, not to Nipayore, Tene, Tobiore, Chenabiorova. Teaching up the Karchigorda, top the Karchigore. Tea top tike, Tanga to Julia, Nyumba, Zangma Zangja, say Tobia top, Zangma Zangja. Chia Tindiji Hakona, Tanga to Sangak Yamnet, that famous in the Pachembo, Zachembo, Hako the Ores.
So when we practice the Yidam deity, there's real power in these practices. There's power and there's blessing. And so what does that power and blessings accomplish? It really makes our mind completely pure. It cleanses and pures and completely clears away the afflictive emotions. And so that's the special power of secret mantra. And that's how we should understand it. So through the practice of secret mantra, that is what's happening. We're taming our own mind stream. We're taming we're overcoming, we're, annihilating, we are subjugating, we are expelling, clearing away the afflictive emotions.
Otherwise, Tanga Yamlenchi, Nada Nubayore, Tanga Lat Bed, Tabozo Yamlenchi Yore, Da adopni pati sure ta samji himba de zol ta kodi singa maga gen de zol no ba do dang ta zam nam to de har se girwa ngani pati siu samban do benai dis ngaja cherun do ya ya tega na yi ke ji do cha cherun do ya oda tinri ji china tine ko sanga chude ta lokpe kan lam do ba des ta sanga chude tine ko rong cha ba des.
But this isn't a foolproof method. It requires our understanding. If otherwise, if that understanding is not there, and we practice these very powerful deities, these wrathful deities, and we feel the energy of that power, and we think, wow, like I'm really attaining something, here, and I really am accessing the power of the deity, and then your pride gets stronger, or your desire gets stronger. And maybe there's even thoughts of like, I am better than others and I can overcome my enemies, with this, I can annihilate my enemies with this practice. Then you're really in trouble. You're really going in the wrong direction with secret mantra. Then it becomes perverse practice of these methods.
Probably you know, right, this the Vajrayana, Kadongji Yorwa.
So there's a story about Vajrayana.
Tini ngoma ala peje tini sa ta ngoma tini jela tini ta keba ngoma yorda keba mo yorwa tini jela tini lopon topga shon se ji yores lopon jela. You know this song?
I don't remember. You have to say more.
Ti kabla tini koran ta lomani chongberes. Loma de da jegla tene tarba nakbo seya de ko ta de jerbo je pures tene ti ke kora yopo tempa seya ji yores
Jabo cheki bu tarba nakbo deni
de kora yopo ro nyamta tene tempa seya ji yores ta mini yora ko disebo ni yorwa kora jerbo project da yopo je yorwa de da lopon topga hyunu ke tine da sanga chu thirwa sanga chula thanda hyuba na yede se gore top gore phama se gore se yala so ta na manda yorwa sanga chu tine yores.
Okay, so there's a story of many kind of eons ago. There was a teacher named Lobon Togyal. What's that?
Topga hyuna.
Oh, sorry, Toga Shunu. And then he had two, there were these two disciples or two students, one named Tarpa Nakpo, and then his who was the son of a king or a prince, and then his servant named Timpap. And so they both had, or this master gave secret mantra teachings to them, and in the process of giving these teachings, he said things like, the enemy must be slayed and expelled, and we have to cut up all the obstructors, and language such as kill your mother, or kill the mother and father. And so forth.
마치리였어?
대지 되네 다 가서 탈바 나포게 다 고체 가래 라와 나기 되네 고 지기 얼다 베드세야 세 도비아도 더고 마가바도 다 대 두루두소 나는도 되네 지 무키샤도 사 되네 지기 얼레스 되네 템바게 다 되네 인사마레 삼다티 인사마레 상악 추디 가르나 추세야 되라 제와당 장접 선바 tini ke kuina lana nyamla chi go yore tini tan de zi to tini chi bina digi yo samare zam tini ko tini se yo marwa ko nyamla khimba jil tini ko hakko yore.
And so, okay. And so these two students
эти два
took what they
ученика
heard and had a very different interpretations. So
имели очень две разных интерпретации
you know,
этого.
did exactly kind of like
Он
according to what the words themselves were. He became very violent. He like, you know, killed people and ate, you know, human flesh and, you know, became very kind of frightening and fearful in his disposition. And then the other student, Timbok, so he thought, something is wrong here. That's not the right approach because, you know, this must not be the way to practice secret mantra because the Dharma emphasizes the importance of love and compassion and the purity of motivation. So if we're violent and harmful to others, then that totally contradicts the Dharma. So that can't be what this means.
디엔드티네 코란이다 코란이 냠내치야 카카인비 좀 센터를 되네 되네 아 로pon자리 안 로버레스.
And so but then he was like, but me and my, you know, companion were practicing in a completely different way. So he decided to go, you know, clarify this with the teacher.
되네 산제케 말이 산제 말이 대 톱가 휴는게 오 레스타 초라 데 탈바나고 초나게 데 노르레스. 되네 냠내서야 아케 초데 되네 냠내치야 말레스. 베나 파마시 골라베아테 칼라고 파마시 깨차 요 말레스. 냐마테 요와타나 나로발라 깨제 오 나로베케 텔로반 수비 까블라테네 메제케 오 초랑 게 텔라비오로 땡기도에 오 나테 나로바 텔로바 하코 요베 카와요레 나테로 나라베테네 텔로바케 야얀 디그리 니 하코 요 텔로바다 하코 요 이나 초랑아 탐보로 가지 치고레스 라비오 of course 랍니테네 티 로바디 오다 초랑이 파마니 보직 제로 치티네 니 티지엘로 초랑 텔로바 카와 땡기도 따고레 라브로와 테 나로바케 용구마리 랍디테네 아야야다 저 차단케 파마 마시나 테네 텔로니 바 칼란 요르스 테 고타 상가 추티니 요서 오테나 얘기테네 테니 세야 또 비아마레스 초랑 노르브레스 라비오레스.
So then when he went to Toga Shuno and asked him about this, sure enough, he said, yeah, no, the other guy's really mistaken in his approach and his practice. That the coded language of Tantra is not as it appears. So when words such as, you know, kill the mother and father, like, so for instance, this also arises in the story of Tilopa and Naropa, when Naropa was searching for Tilopa, and he came across different people and said in his journey and said, you know, do you know Tilopa? Do you know of this master Tilopa? Do you know where I can find him? And so on one of these occasions, you know, he came upon someone and he said, and the person's response was, yes, I know Tilopa, but I can show you where to go or direct you to him. But first, help me with something. Help me to kill my mother and father. And so then he said, so what that meant, what this was referring to, you know, and then I'll help you find Tilopa. What this was referring to was not actually killing the mother and father, but killing the mother and father of attachment and aversion, meaning the attachment and aversion in one's own mind stream. So he said, if you don't kill the mother and father of attachment and aversion, how can you ever expect to find Tilopa?
오다 티인데다 테레스 티인데네 오다 책데 엔디금 책데니 마레스 세야 마레스.
And so he was saying, you know, that literal interpretation of these secret mantra teachings or practices is not how it is to be taken or understood.
오 티인데네 다 티인데네 타 텔랍티 템파초랑 덴바레스. 다 타르바나고 주마레 랍데 타르바나고 로pon다다 베 항상 두자도 스타코 탐봉가 저베 다 나라오이나 자보프리스 코 틴데인다고 치이테네 코 녜 지조 참마데 베 만데고체 테네 코 지조게 나 요호 지조 참만데 바테니다 가와 용즈 다고 야보 노랍나 다 지나니 데기도 추냠네 지기도 랍나 데기 테네 마이라 테네 코 로pon라 콘로사 테네 톱가라양 톱가 말이다 템파라 콘로사 거다 결부 풀어와 왕로 열어왔더니 농바티니 바쁘 드니 진데네 코랑 야한테는 배다다 매개와 치는데 노브레스.
And so then the teacher admonished this Tarpa Nakpo and said, you know, that Timpak is practicing the way that it is supposed to be practiced, and you're mistaken in your approach. And then Tarpa Nakpo became furious. He said, you know, how dare this other guy is just my servant, like I'm the son of a king, you know, and this teacher doesn't know what he's talking about. And he became really furious with the teacher. He became furious with his servant and like expelled his servant or got rid of him and continued on his path of non-virtue.
오다 드니 지네드네 다고 탈바나고 거랑 희송로 와. 희버리스네 희위 깔라다 고베 징년 솔라소바 제네 드네 양조고 무기제와 랭요로 와. 무기제와 랭도 이나고 상아 추게 냠내 집이 들렸대네. 고다 그 누판로 베 흉침부 항상야게 심전 힘발라 세와 징년 때네 단 나루자 탈바나고 세야디 제와 랭로 와.
Shine, tene chiwa migi chiwa limbare, tene gare.
Tene ko nupa chimbude chongbodes. Karsena ko sangachi chunyamne chi yorwa. Ina ko nupa chimbude ko nupa lokpa. Ko mechimba zik tobya yowa. Semjana tsawa chi tobya yobi ki nupa lebares. Ruta tarwana ko ya charwa.
So this this Tarpa Nakpo, he died, and then he took rebirth in the lower realms, and then later he took birth again in the future in as a human being. But having taken birth as a human being, he had these imprints from his kind of perverse secret mantra practice. So he was like very powerful, but he didn't have the qualities of love and compassion. So he was very violent, and he was able to really harm, you know, he was very powerful in his harm and in his like power of harm, and very violent. And so he was at that time known as Rudra Tarmanakpo. Rudra Tarmanakpo. Tarpa Nakpo.
Tini ta ngato tana di nyingme ke chu kabji yoro kabji ke tene ta ngato kola ta tungen je gogo ta nupa be hansa nupa yo mo himba je ke kola tu tu yo marwa rota tarwa na ho.
So the nyingme kabje nangla?
Ta nyingma la kabji yoro ina ta malam de do.
No, degere de.
Ta kabji nangla tenji tene korang ta.
Chigere.
Di
chigere.
Mari no.
Okay, so
ina ta kabji ke nangla tene ta chabu kor hingdo wa. tene lato chapo chine ta chapo chine tu go ro ina ta tinana ta mambo yo ina ta phorwa tel tene ta kaha phorwe ki tene kora tu to ban ro ji tene chung kaha bares
oh they took core dawa ini yang kabje dang dawa are de yang kabje la gi core dawa cha yorbe ruta tarba napo
no
so purba gi core
phorwa ro kabji sina phujek phorwa ro phorwa tene
oh chik purba
tene chinjo yo ro kabji kina phorwa tene la tos ina jetam kabji kina la ke che sho te tene te ro ta tindu ta kim phorwa te ro jetam yang da to phorwa tene ta ki phorwa tene tene be ndi ba hyo chen bo ro yin ta phorwe ki tene du to ban ro ji tene ha ko gu ya sa ro
so purba konga do arebe
Really? That then we got to love the
so then he became, so in the Nyingma tradition we have the 8 Herukas, and of the 8 Herukas, one of them is Vajrayana. And so there are these beings like that are not wisdom deities, but like kind of like activity beings or deities that are not fully enlightened, but that are kind of like performing, they're subjugated by the deities, and they kind of like perform activities for them. So they're the enlightened activities that are kind of executed, by these beings who are bound under oath. And so he then later, he was subjugated by Vajrayana and kind of became one of these beings, is how I understand it. Eric, if you want to add anything, please do.
without Vajrayana, they can that two baji gechi, the Ruta Tarwana Koran, Jemens Alata, Korota Tarwana Koran, maybe Gablatine, Koran Ruta Tarwana Pondo, Zuchi, Nala Young, Tene Koran, Jemet, Lundici, Tene Koran, Ruta Tarwana.
The Yabokoma Song Young Char, so Sugi Chimen, the Ruta Tarbanapo Chimen Rebe.
Really? Ruta Tarwana Jementa, Ruta Tarwana Koran Yosamarwa. Tene Purve Keta, two baji Jene. Tine Ruta Tarwana Ko in Bando Chinetine, Monalando Yorwa. Nalando Netine, Koran in Jeva Chinetine, Purvek Pugji, that Ruta Tarwana Hojimela, Chayorwa.
Okay, so so then when Ruda Tarpanagbo was not around, he had a wife, and so then Vajrayana emanated as Ruda Tarpanagbo, and then slept with his wife, and then she became impregnated, and then she had a child, and then that child was like an emanation, or an offspring essentially of Vajrayana, emanation of Vajrayana.
Tine, Takarsena Digo Rutarwana Podeko, Hedan Karanzo, Tine Rutarwana Pokoya, Tine booked Mandawa Hiviorwa. Booked Mandawa Hiviori, the Pugneta, Marampu in Samari, Pung the Pemas Dujados. Lamnetine, Koranitine, Tangan Zengo Logorwa.
Zingo Sena?
Tabgos.
Huh?
Fight.
The Pugu Dangarangni. Okay. So as the child grew up, Ruda Tarpanagbo was like a very angry dude. So he was like, really didn't like the child, was like, something's different here. This is not my child. This is a terrible child. And so then he decided he wanted to fight the child.
Tini ta koni tuwa jegi yorwa tini ko pena cha chana tini ko thangbo ndawo china ko pena cha hiendawo chi tini chi bikabla tini yang ko rura tarwa na ko yang ko cha hiendawo tugu yosarwa.
So he started doing like so su dampo pugu chakji chayore. Okay. So in their fighting, the child, became capable or was capable of manifesting all of these magical emanations. So like he sprouted 4 arms, and then Ruda Tarpanagbo, in response to this, sprouted 4 arms.
Wada tenda wotene pena jik Vajrayana tene pena cha ji no so na tene Ruda Tarpanagbo cha ji no so yorwa.
G or G?
Yeah, G multiple, doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. So 8 or 4 or multiple, it doesn't matter. And then maybe indicate la guidance na tesa go tongindo tela.
Tene ko tuba jegirwa ko. Porba la cha he yo na ko Rutarwana ko cha he so to berwa.
Oh, okay.
Tene ko ngom de Porveki cha juso na ya Rutarwana ko cha juso to yorwa.
So they just kind of like, it sounds like it was sort of like a standoff of emanation. So like, when the Kalaya offspring would sprout like 4, 5, 8 arms, then Ruda Tarpanagbo would sprout 8 arms, and then, Kilaya would sprout 10 arms, and Ruda Tarpanagbo would sprout 10 arms, and so on and so forth.
Yine yang ta tamade, de karsena proa clinic lots of it clinic to a jeji ko cha thangli me ba tu de ta Ruta Tarwana bo koran ke ta tangi ko ji chu chi bi sanga ke nyamlen di mi pa ji yu yori tina ko limit ro te indi tine ko ta tamade tine koran ke ta tene ko karse ko tene ko tu mathom ne tene porveki tene ko tu yores tamlo ta yorwa tamlo ta antene ko suma ta nang gombo roji
Like Gande, Purpachune, Tene, Gare, Sungma, Gare?
suma tati
Oh,
la
Sungma Cha, Yorebe.
Re- ta
Yeah,
keme do,
okay.
ta keme.
Ako Sung. Didn't
That
I?
is
Came
Sung-
to do my lap. didn't
ta suma
I? So then, like, you know, so were all of these emanations that the Kilaya offspring performed, and then and then he sprouted finally countless, like limitless arms, you know, with infinite arms, and that Rudra Tarpa couldn't match. Tarpa Napo couldn't match. So because he had power, the power of secret mantra, even though it was like this perverse power of secret mantra, but because it wasn't true dharma, based on true dharma, there was a limit to it. So he couldn't like fully manifest that level of emanation. And so then the Kilaya emanation won, and as a result of this, then he bound Rudra Tarpa Napo under oath, and he then became a protector of Kilaya.
어다티 인도 되게 main reason 가르치 오르세나 가서 상가 냠len지 세야디 고 단기게 동인도와 양 상가 추텔라 책 코랑 많이 봐 배나 공제기로와 책 라바티 가나 통나 라네다리아 많이 봐 상가한테 가르세나 데도와 상가하다 고지 배반으로 요르와 제가 나기게 다 수더기 요래 수세기 요래 수도부 요래세나 뇽몽바 똥갱이마 랑게 줄라 뇽몽바 나타 세야 도비아인보 드니지 하고고 그래서 대마도 가서 아kim니 관로랑 드네 세야 그 유심바지 요위나 드네 맞지 갈세고 아kim니 바디 요와체 드네 나도 미게와치 야라 드네 니파쇼 쳔불람 거야 그냥 요래스
So the main reason for going into all of this is to really talk about, you know, address some of this hidden language, for instance, and to really like make it clear that these words, for instance, and that we find in secret mantra are not not to be taken at face value. They aren't literal, and if you know, it isn't like the actions, you know, that the words like that. So if we take them literally and kind of act accordingly or practice accordingly with a mistaken perception, interpretation, or intention, then we can still utilize the power of secret mantra, but it becomes very dangerous. So, meaning that the power becomes perverse, and like, but there is still power that can be found there, but it becomes completely mistaken. Practice which goes down the path of non-virtue. So the language of secret mantra is intentionally hidden language. So these words like, you know, to annihilate, to, you know, kind of cleave or separate and liberate or expel and so forth, all of this really is only meant to be understood in terms of so the subjugation of the afflictions and defilements within our own mind stream. And again, you know, these practices are very powerful, but if we don't understand them properly, then we can very easily go down mistaken paths of non-virtue.
어다 디니다 디 나랑고네 상악 추들라 다 자침보리 디나양 디 하마고나 디네 냥가 처부리 스티니다 고 야 뭐부제게 하고 요래 양 딘하 마공케 요나 디네 지 책 코랑 올란로나 디네 가서 big mistake 차로야 디네스
So again, you know, he said, you know, he himself has great reverence for the secret mantra dharma. It's very profound, but if it is not properly understood, it can be very dangerous. And the words are not to be taken literally. The words are not as they appear.
이나야 당가서 지 단다데 제도지 갑라고 지 디테일 텐디드니
And then, you know, this will also become like to really give you context once we start going through the teachings, the Hivadra teachings, because then, you know, it kind of breaks it down and you really that will be explained, you know, all of this will be explained in greater detail, you know, in the teaching days that come.
Okay. So this is preparation for informants. So first maybe we can do the one Dharma, and then we can just start this afternoon. So.
True Dharma.
Or two, you know, that the Dharma, the Dharma. Tambo two le.
Rebe, hako dringa mendo.
That Dharma je dang.
Lazo.
Om Benzar Merda Gundale Hana Hana Hom Pe Om Soba Vashuda Sarva Dharma Soba Vashuda.
Oh, so first now we are offering a torma to dispel obstructing forces.
Dombe Ngale Yomle Longe Jingoro 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 Doga Huye Yeve Chen Daven Tani Wadan Jen Zambati Dendo Ramle Mi Jingoro Sombravati Dendo Ale Toba Chingala Mar Marwa Yangshin Ja Che Se Mi Xia Chang Jib Je Sem Me Xia La De Long Bo Je Xia Te Je Nang Lor Lora da ye xia zhe jie dang no do wan lang ge xia zhao da dang chang de qi xia dang yu gua ti nam ma jie nam ba wa so la a ti ding ding da qi du jie zhe mo hong ge zhen ba liang guo to de dao ba la long ge me bo ra to ba zhu xiang a de zhe ko wa re jiu a le wo zhe ren zhu da qi du jie dang jie ba na yi ji ge de zhe jiu tam zhe ge de zhe dang yi shi me ba de ba re jiu na me sarva da dang ga da wa Nama sarvata danga da bayo me shambhu kenjo sarvata ganga de saparana imanga gana gama sova nama sarvata danga da bayo me shambhu kenjo sarvata ganga de saparana imanga gana nama sarvata danga da bayo me shambhu kenjo sarvata ganga de saparana imanga gana gama sova kaya de ne la dang Jin Sin Bo Am Xian Yang Rong Nga San De Da La Jin Ko Re Ji Jin Ko Re Qian Bo Ji De Zu
So then, since we're almost done with the time, we can do the cleansing. We can pick up with the empowerment in the afternoon, beginning with the cleansing. So we can recite the dedication prayers on page 25 of the prayer book. Oh, wait. Oh, 24. Sorry, 24 of the prayer book. Bottom of the page. By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Thank you.
Should we make an announcement?
Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the winter. It was really more like spring, but we had the Holiness event in late January, so usually we have these in February and March, but let's say spring teachings. But we have a few events this week. We will continue with the empowerment in the afternoon to everyone on Zoom, please. That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till 5. And then tomorrow, Drupal Rinpoche will begin with the Havajra teachings until Tuesday. And so the weekend schedule and the weekday schedule are a little bit different. So on the weekends, it's 10 to 12, and then a break from 12 to 2, and then 2 to 5. But during the week, it's 2 to 5 with a break for dinner from 5 to 7, and then 7 to 9 is the second session. We will have no events, no practice, no teachings or anything on Wednesday. So during the week, we'll have a sadhana practice at 10 a.m. to maybe 11 or 12, something like that. We'll be practicing middle length Havajra sadhana. And if you have questions about that, you can see Virginia or Paula or myself. And if you need to register, please see Paula. And what about volunteers?
Yeah, we, for
those,
those, just because this is like an ongoing retreat, it's helpful, to have just certain things to be taken care of, like the bathrooms and, the common space and the Sangha house. So we have a volunteer sign-up sheet that Beverly, you can see Beverly and or Paula for that. And please sign up if you can, agree, or if you have the ability to help out with any of these tasks, because it just, makes it helpful for everybody who's attending the retreats, to try to look after and take care of the facilities here.
Yeah, so Drupal Rinpoche is going to teach from Sunday until Tuesday, and then after the break, Khenpo Yeshe will be here, and he'll be teaching on Choyong Zud, or the basic space of phenomena, the precious teachings by Longchenpa. And for those teachings, we will end on Sunday, and we will be having a long life ceremony for Khenpo Yeshe, who has been teaching here and is a great friend of Drupal Rinpoche and of the center. And so please, if you can attend on Sunday, that would be really great in support of Khenpo Yeshe. And I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, but thank you all for coming.
Also, I will just add really quickly, we're so fortunate to have these beautiful short Nairatmya practice sadhanas that Eric Freimiller it has translated, and I heard he stayed up fairly late to try to get this done and ready for us, so we have a support for our practice. So it's really kind of him to donate it all to us. And so also it's really hard for translators to make a living, and if you are interested in supporting him, please maybe offer him a donation for this kind gift that he's given to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.